Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon and happy Friday. That's the most important. It's fun that we have these programs on Fridays because there's always an extra smile on everybody's face. My name's Kathleen Traphagen, and I co-coordinate the EdFunders Out of School Time Impact Group along with Rebecca Goldberg. And thank you for joining us today. We have a 1-hour program, and we've got some really terrific people that we're going to hear a lot from. And our subject today is innovations in supporting youth mental health in out of school time. As we all know, young people that we work with are navigating a lot. They are navigating the stresses that all of us as adults are navigating in the world today. They're navigating a lot of stuff around social media, still continuing fallout from pandemic isolation, trauma, grief, attacks on their racial and gender, religious identities, among other challenges. And all of this is really contributing to a deepening mental health crisis among our youth. And we know, as folks who are part of the out of school time and youth development space, that this space has unique potential to support young people's wellness and mental health. We also know that there's a lot of challenges for this space to reach that potential, and a lot of them are around financing and capacity, other structural barriers. And so today we're really going to dig into two different places who are really innovating around some of these barriers to provide mental health support to the young people that they serve in their out of school time programs. So the way we're going to do it is two little case studies. There's a city in Kentucky and yet to be unnamed, you'll find out in a minute. And then there's Detroit. And so the intro question today is, go ahead, Rebecca. How do we pronounce this city in Kentucky? So in the chat, as usual, introduce yourself, your organization, and your pronouns. And then Rebecca's going to play 3 different alternatives here, and you can write 1, 2, or 3 in the chat.
Okay, here comes number 1.
Louisville.
Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one more time, number 1.
Louisville.
Okay, here comes number 2.
Louisville.
Again for number 2.
Louisville.
And number 3.
Louisville.
One more time for number 3.
Louisville.
All right. So that was 1, 2, and 3. We're going to, and you can take those slides down for a second, Rebecca.
Sure.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk with 2 funder leaders. Both these folks are members of the Out of School Time Impact Group Steering Committee. And first of all, thank you for the work that you do in leadership of this community. Both Nicole from CE&S Foundation and Amber from Altria are the funders that are behind the case studies that we're going to delve in today. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is have you all introduce yourself and just tell us first about the why, about yourself. Why do you do the work that you do? And then we'll get into a little bit about your funding strategies.
Let me go first.
We can start with Nicole. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Eovino Diebold with the CE&S Foundation. So although I was not born in Louisville, that is how I say it. This is my community and the school district that raised me. And so I'm proud of that. And I also realize that there is a lot of opportunity to contribute to making positive change and impact. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm, drawn to community work and the work that I do. I also understand that, not one entity will solve the complex issues that are needing to be addressed within our community. But I've also been drawn to the role that philanthropy and foundations can play in terms of convening power and organizing different organizations to work towards strategic problem solving.
Awesome. Thanks. And Amber, why are you doing your work?
Yeah, so my short answer is that national service and participating in AmeriCorps 30 years ago really connected me to kind of the field and the desire to be part of contributing to making our communities better. The connecting dot to youth development in particular and to my kind of trajectory to Altria was also through national service and being part of a state commission in Indiana and connecting into that, and then being part of corporate philanthropy from that work. And so really believe strongly in the approach that Altria takes to underage use prevention, and positive youth development is a force within that, and moved my family from Indiana to be part of it. So really glad to be here today with all of you and in the conversation.
That's awesome. You're getting some good shout outs from other AmeriCorps alums in the chat. So awesome. So Amber, why don't you go ahead with and tell us about your funding portfolio and how supporting the work of the Boys and Girls Club in Southeastern Michigan aligns with the goals that you are looking for.
Absolutely. So I shared a little bit. Our focus with our investments in positive youth development is part of the broader work that Altria has been leading for 25 years that's focused on preventing underage use. So we do not want young people using our products. We have multiple tobacco companies that are part of our portfolio, and we believe very strongly that young people should not be using those products. We know through positive youth development theory that when young people have protective factors like access to high quality out of school time programs, that they're less likely to engage in myriad risky behaviors that include tobacco use. We have invested in one shape or another and supported Boys and Girls Clubs for the 25 years that we've been leading this work. And recently, in the last couple of years, it's been focused on a direct-to-club model. And in that, we really focused on club organizations that were leading exemplary work in the field. And some key elements in that, we're looking at organizations like Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan that really were focused on innovative work and approaches. It's also been on how to ensure that they are leaning in and learning from others that we're funding, that they're strengthening the Boys and Girls Club field at large, as well as others in the OST field. So really how they're working to amplify their approaches, the impacts and the outcomes that are part of their models and approaches. We know that young people, like a whole child approach, is so critical to position young people to thrive. And really in what you shared in the opening so eloquently, Kathleen, in terms of the struggles that our young people are facing around mental health and well-being, that this is just a critical element. And we're seeing, as part of our investment in youth development, we fund leading, proven effective national youth development organizations that include Boys and Girls Clubs and include Big Brothers Big Sisters of America communities and schools, 4-H, First Tee, and others. And all of these organizations are really focused on how to provide the supports to young people, in particular in the unique struggles that they're facing right now. But our approach with Boys and Girls Clubs like Southeast Michigan, this group has heard from Southern Nevada as well, really highlights where there is that opportunity to connect the resources that our young people need as they navigate these mental health and well-being challenges. So excited for folks to hear more about the model and approach and what they're really doing to contribute to the broader ecosystems that are available to and supporting our youth. So very glad to be here.
Thanks, Amber, for that. And if folks, as usual, I should have said this in the beginning, but if you've got comments or questions, just throw those in the chat. And let's have a continuing conversation. A lot of them may be able to be answered right in the chat, and then there'll be opportunities for you to come on into the spotlight if you'd like as we go. Okay, Nicole, can you explain why you are doing the funding that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a private family foundation in Louisville, Kentucky. And at the end of 2014, the foundation began to implement an education grant making strategy. And we currently work within 5 strategic areas of focus, which Rebecca is pulling up for us right now. And those areas of focus work interconnectedly towards achieving our goal statement. And so we found that over the first couple of years of our strategy, supporting at-risk students in our community to close equity achievement gaps through out-of-school time programming was quickly becoming the largest part of our investment portfolio. And our OST partners were, for the most part, working across each of our strategic areas of focus. And so as a result, in 2018, we began convening our OST partners. There were about 14 at the time, just to discuss, the challenges and the opportunities that were facing the sector and how to potentially develop ways for greater collaboration across providers. But one challenge that we were consistently hearing and was being brought up was the mental and behavioral health needs for provider staff and their students. And so given that interest, given the interest expressed by our partners, we began piloting work with the Bounce Coalition, which you'll hear more about shortly, to provide trauma-informed trainings to all of the interested grant partner OST provider staff in 2019. And since then, those efforts have expanded to working more intently across 6 different OST providers and with a number of our grant partners in multiple ways, either through staff trainings, direct support for students, or family engagement opportunities. And across our portfolio, our work has grown to investing in 9 different initiatives supporting mental and behavioral health needs with more than $1 million in approved grants. So recognizing that poor mental health and exposure to trauma inhibit progress in each of our strategic focus areas, last June, we convened a group of youth-serving grant partners and mental and behavioral health service providers to share their experience with each other and to inform our foundation's grant making. And the conversation really confirmed the need for more resources to respond to trauma-impact youth and families, including resources to bring mental and behavioral health providers to OST sites, to train frontline staff to provide trauma-informed approaches in their work with youth, and to support parents to strengthen their own mental health and how they can best support their children. So guided by this input, the foundation issued grants that directly responded to the needs of our OST partners. And 2 of those ideas, which spun out of that conversation last year, are here today to talk about the work. And while they're, while they will explain their efforts more specifically, I just wanted to provide a brief, some brief insight into our rationale for those investments. So with Bounce, we're expanding our work within OST providers to build resilience by working directly with students and families. And we're interested in being able to learn about the direct impact that is having on participants, as well as learn from the capacity building which programming can provide for out-of-school time providers in our community. And then with Maryhurst, this is an opportunity to leverage ARPA dollars with Louisville Metro Government's Community Health, Mental Health Project to expand this work to place mental and behavioral health services within OST providers. And ideally inform the necessity of additional sustainable funding from other sources. And then Sowing Seeds with Faith is also here, Damarian, as one of our longtime and trusted OST partners that we fund through general operating support, but has also implemented the work of Bounce within his organization and will be a pilot site for the Maryhurst work as well. And so as we learn about the impact of these grants, as well as other grants supporting the mental and behavioral health needs of students and families through our learning and assessment framework, we will continue to plan to explore opportunities to sustain or scale effective approaches to serve more OST organizations and youth in Louisville.
Thanks for that, Nicole. And I just, before I bring on Dr. Tiffany, I just wanted to mention a few things that I heard from both of you in terms of the themes that drive your grant making, because that's our lane, right? Funders. I know a lot of folks on the call have all sorts of different roles in the field, and that's on purpose. We really want to build this community of folks every month. But thinking about what I heard was listening to grantees. I heard that it's a mix. Sometimes it's general operating, sometimes it's programs. So it depends on what people need and the best ways that the funding will meet the needs of the grantees. Definitely also heard from Amber, like a particular strategy around funding folks that are going to do innovations that learning is going to be amplified both within an organization that is a national organization and then beyond that to the field. So those things are super important. And thanks for saying all of that and being sort of modeling how to, do the work that you do. And explain the why behind the decisions, which again, I think is often a little bit of a black box. And so we definitely want to, really shine that light so everybody understands more about, what goes on in terms of how these decisions get made. So thank you to both of you for being here. If folks have questions for Nicole and Amber, throw them in the chat and you guys can respond in the chat, and then we'll have a chance to bring you back later. So right now we're going to bring on Dr. Tiffany Abrego. Welcome, Dr. Abrego. Do we call you Dr. Abrego or Dr. Tiffany?
Most people call me Dr. Tiffany.
Okay, awesome. So Dr. Tiffany, from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan, can you start out by telling us why you do the work you do?
I do the work I do because I absolutely love working with kids, first of all. I think that what is so amazing about the Boys and Girls Clubs is that it's not just that I'm in my own separate clinic in an office and I'm sitting in there, just seeing patients one-on-one there. I get to be in the community, at the clubs, seeing the kids in their natural environments. And I get to see also the amazing progress of what we see in outcomes. And I'll talk more about that when I discuss, but we get to see the in vivo progress and meet with the families where they are and provide, basic needs that they may not be able to get otherwise. And so it's just so rewarding. It's the best work because it's so rewarding to get to see all of that happen.
So that's super interesting because then your job, which you're going to explain in a little bit, the whole program and the innovation that goes on at Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan, but you both get to build what you've built and also keep a direct service element to your job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I wouldn't do this if I didn't get to do direct service because I would really miss being with the kids and seeing them every day and knowing what they're going through is really high quality services. So we run a training program. All of our direct services are typically done with students, but we're so involved with our training. Our kids are so used to us. We sit in on all of the therapies. We're in all of the groups. We actually mentor staff as well, because that's a really great way to have high quality services is meeting with staff and providing services to them as well. So, we get to be involved in all aspects of it. We're on site every single day.
Yeah, I like how you amplified that, because I think sometimes, folks will think like, okay, you're doing a direct service job, but then you're going to go do a job like you have, and you have to give up direct service to do that. And you are not doing that. You are actually mixing both. And so I love that. And people who, if anybody has more questions about that or how you figured that out, Tiffany's email is in the bio, or you can ask some questions in the chat. But I will turn now to having you explain exactly what is going on in terms of supporting mental health needs for young people at the Boys and Girls Club of Southeast Michigan.
All right, thank you. So we have the BGCSM Mentally Fit program. We're made up of me as an executive director. I have a director of psychology. Her name is Dr. Molly Corey. She's amazing. And then also a director of social work, also amazing. Her name is Janae Joseph. So we can go to the next slide. So this is a really amazing program because it was actually an idea by one of our youth. So our youth of the year, his name is Jeremiah Green. He struggled with his own mental health and thought that he needed mental health services, and they were so difficult to access in his community that he, as youth of the year in 2021, wanted his platform to be mental health and getting mental health services in all the clubs so that every youth could access mental health services. And so what happened was he went and spoke to the board, spoke to universities, and that is why I have a job, is really because of him. It was my job to develop this program. And I actually spoke with him and I interviewed him and I work with him still even to make sure that this is his dream embodied. So we can go to the next slide. So we partnered with several universities and things like that I'll talk about later. But what our big overarching mission is not just to give the highest quality mental health services to our youth, but also to serve as a training program and have a national model for how we train future clinical psychologists and social workers in our field so that they can be able to get that amazing training and then also provide amazing services for our youth. So not only do we have all of our services, but we also have a club culture. So all of our staff are very aware of us. We're out on the floor all day, every day. Like I said, we work with staff. We are not just, an elite mental health service off to the side. We are serving food. We are helping clean up. We are in programs with other staff. We are relieving them for breaks. We are helping with conflict resolution. That is what we provide on site. And then also we have a workforce development program for our youth who are interested in going into mental health fields. So they are helping to lead some of those groups as well. And we also have, like I said, our training program. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are all the services. I'm not going to read them all, but there's a lot. And so we provide all of these services, and which really includes, it's a full service program. We have individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy. Like I said, we do behavior plans. We also are partnered with St. John's University, and we have a trauma team, and all of our staff are trained in trauma-informed approaches and trauma-informed intervention. So it's not just us that provides the intervention. Our staff is also trained in intervention so that they can provide it on site immediately and then go to the next level, which is for us to be involved as well. But they're all trained in ways to address and intervene with trauma. So next slide, please. So like I said, we are partnered with a lot of people here in Michigan. So Emory University was the first partnership that I developed for our C learning curriculum. This is social, emotional, and ethical learning. It's built on compassion, kindness, and interconnectedness, but also just basic emotional learning skills like attention, focus, behavior management, things like that. And so every single child who is enrolled at Boys and Girls Club gets that curriculum, whether they're consented for mental health services or not, everyone gets that. Like I said, St. John's University we're partnered with. I'm also a professor at Wayne State University. So I am able to have the students that are at the program in the PhD program at Wayne State, they come over to Boys and Girls Club for their training, and it allows me to kind of be on both sides of that training, which is really valuable for me. I love teaching. And then we also are partnered with Eastern Michigan University, Michigan School of Psychology, University of Detroit Mercy. We also started partnering with schools in the community close to our clubs. So George Washington Carver, we provide in-school services on site during the day while kids are in school. We also, now that we are expanding our social work program, we've partnered with Madonna and Oakland universities that provide our social work students. And then we're partnered also with Detroit Children's Hospital. So in another life, I was a medical school professor for 6 years at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. And so I provided a lot of consultation in medical clinics. And so I continue to do that. And in return, the medical students and residents come on site to teach different aspects of medicine. And also they provide free physicals for all of our youth who want to participate in sports. And then we also partner with other Boys and Girls Clubs. So we are partnered with Southern Nevada as well, which I know a lot of you heard about. So the next slide. So this is actually the first pieces of our data. So we are very young. We started in July 2022. And so we have been collecting data since day one. And so we have time 1 and time 2 data, and this is for our resiliency. So resiliency is that ability to kind of bounce back after you experience trauma or difficult circumstances. So if you build resiliency skills, a lot of times that focuses on the positive skills that our youth can learn. And we're not just focused on, they have anxiety, we have to treat that. They have depression, we have to treat that. We're focused on where can we take their strengths and really build on that. And resiliency is one of those things. And so you can see from our time point 1 to time point 2, these are our young youth, our children. So this doesn't include adolescents, but between time point 1 and time point 2, you saw an increase in resiliency skills that was significant, statistically significant. And so we were really
So,
excited
sorry,
about that.
the age group for this again?
It's under 12. So we
Okay,
start at
got it.
5. Yes. So we start at 5 until 12. And so it was statistically significant. We presented this at a conference, the Society for Research in Adolescence, along with our model, and you'll get to see a picture of that later as well. So we were really excited about these results because, like I said, we're really new program. So seeing significant results is really exciting. So next slide, please. So our staffing capacity, we only have 3 supervisors. You heard that. 3 supervisors, and we have 8 students. Next year, we will have 12 students, and hoping to add another supervisor. We've expanded, we're at all 4 clubs, like I said, every day. We have our new social work program. We also have a teen internship, and I'll show you a little bit of that. And we have our research program that is building over time so we can take data on the things that we do. So the next slide, please. And these are our behavioral health interns, and we took them to Chicago to present at the Society for Research in Adolescence. They actually did a presentation. It was called For Us, By Us, a youth-led approach to clinical and research practice in an out-of-school time setting. So they collaborated with our students and with us to present that at that conference. And then there's a picture of all of us at the conference and a few pictures of some fun time that we got to have with our behavioral health interns. So next slide, please. So in 2024, we served over 700 youth, I believe, and then, or 578, I'm sorry, I didn't see that, it was outside of the screen, but 578 in 2024 so far, and that's just since January. Last year, it was over 700 total for the whole year. So we're really growing each year as we're getting more into the programs. So next slide, please. So just future directions. Like I said, we have more students joining us. The word's kind of getting out and traveling fast. So we have a lot of students who've applied to work with us. We're hoping to serve 1,200 youth this year in 2024. We're well on our way. We are also remodeling our behavioral health spaces to make it, you know, a really valuable and fun place for our kids to be. One of the things we were really concerned about when we started was stigma. We really wanted to make this a place where it was a fun and a place where the kids really enjoyed being, and we've done that. Although there is some stigma about mental health in general, once the kids are engaged with us, they know who we are. We're their staff, and so we see them all the time. So coming with us is actually a reward. Being able to come to therapy and have one-on-one time is a reward. And so we really want that to be to show in our spaces. We also started sports psychology program to help with the toxic effects of being in sports and having like coaches and things like that, and training them in more behaviorally appropriate approaches and reinforcement and goal setting and things like that. And then also our work development behavioral health internships. So that is all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Tiffany, for that. I was totally blown away by your list of partnerships. And I think that is, you know, really shows how important that is, but also how much time you must be spending actually coordinating those partnerships, or somebody is spending all of that time coordinating those partnerships and finding those partnerships. And so, you know, that's where like having the capacity and the resources to have the staff that do that is so important. I also loved how you showed the young people and their work. And if you get a minute to drop into the chat, I think there's probably a lot of people here who would love to read that paper or whatever it is that they presented at the society. That's awesome. And also the ways that you talked about taking an asset-based approach to what you do and how that kind of is a through line for everything. So we're going to move on right now, just in terms of time. But if folks have questions for Tiffany, you can use the chat, and we'll have a chance, hopefully, to bring you back at the end as well. Okay, thank you for that. So now we're going to hear from the folks in Louisville. I'm trying to put my marbles in my mouth, and I'm not going to say Louisville. That would be horrible. That is not even where you live. But what we'll start with is each of you introducing yourselves, and then maybe you tell us how you say your city. This is like a big thing, I noticed. So let's start with Joe Cruz. Oh, and I'm going to give you the intro question too, okay?
Okay.
The intro question is, why do you do the work that you do? Okay, so pronounce the city, tell us your name and organization and why you do your work. And we'll start with you.
So I say Louisville. When I first came here, I'm from Jersey, but when I first came here, I learned from the youth, and that is how all the youth said the city's name, and so that's how I say it. So Louisville for me. My name is Joe Cruz, and I'm with the Bounce Coalition. And so your question is, why do I do what I do, and why does Bounce do what it does? Is that right?
Yeah, but let's just stick with why you do what you do for this first round.
Okay. All right. I will say one of the reasons why I do what I do is probably about 10 years ago, I took my first adverse childhood experiences survey, and I was a 9. And, one of the things that it said was the outcome was you would have 20 years of less life, or you would have, all these different physical, emotional, mental outcomes. And what I realized was I did not have to go in that trajectory. I could change my trajectory. And when I realized that I could help other people. I could help my family, my friends, my community, to understand that just because you come from what you come from, you don't have to go down a certain pathway. So that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do, is to provide education and information to people like myself, and to people who work with people like myself.
Okay, thanks for that. And Micah?
Get here. All right, so I'm born and raised in Louisville, but I call it Louisville. The correct way is Louisville, but I call it Louisville. My dad's from New York, my mom's from Georgia, so go figure. I don't know. So I'm Micah George. I'm with Mary Hurst. I'm the Chief Community Officer. Why do I do what I do? It changes every day, I think. And today I do what I do because I love being a part of systems change, even in small ways. And as part of my role at Maryhurst and the privilege that I have in terms of access that I have in my community, I get to be a part of that, which I think is super cool and super motivating. So that's my why for today.
Great. Demarian?
Hi, you all. My name is Demarian, and I am born and raised from Louisville. Both parents, grandparents, we deeply rooted here in the city of Louisville. So it is Louisville. So you guys are doing a great job. I run a program called Sowing of Faith. I started it about 7 years ago. Why I do this work, I feel like I was appointed to this work. I feel like God gave me a certain purpose, a passion, and a platform. Those in the city who know, we have one of the largest organizations here in the city, and we've grown this from the ground up. I feel like kids deserve and desire an organic and safe space to be authentically themselves. I feel like our youth, they definitely get it. They understand, they're competent and capable. And I feel like Sowing of Faith is empowering that change daily. I feel like that this work is what determines what happens next. It is the who's, the what's, and the hows. So Sowing of Faith is my why. I feel like if I don't, who will?
Thank you. You're just breaking up a teeny bit for me. I don't know if it's maybe your ear. Do you have an ear thing in, Demarian?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay.
Okay for me. It's coming through okay over here.
It could be me too. Okay, now I can see you better. Okay, good. So what do young people do in your program? What is your program like? Sort of a day in the life.
So we do a little bit of everything. We kind of touch all the surfaces of the earth, I would say. We have tutoring. We do that. Our day-to-day attribute is tutoring. We have a HBCU college tours. We take about 100 kids twice a year on college tours across the country. We have retreats. About 50 to 75 kids come to 4 or 5 different retreats we host throughout the year. We have sneaker balls for kids during Derby. If those who don't know, that's one of the biggest events here in the city of Louisville. So we have the only Derby, high school Derby experience. We have a unique experience called Teen Talk. We have an open floor setting for youth to come and just naturally engage organically. We have about between 60 and 80 kids come every third Saturday just to talk about themselves, give them the floor. It's a safe and organic space. Adults can come, but adults cannot talk in the space. And then sometimes they get generous and give me and Joe a few opportunities just to be able to tie up some loose ends and let them understand that parenting does not come with a book, and to give your parents grace and mercy. So Sowing Seeds of Faith pretty much does everything that you can possibly think of when it comes to youth.
And so what are the mental health or wellness needs that you were seeing in your young people that motivated you to want to partner with Bounce and Maryhurst? And we'll move it in a bit to Joe and Micah, so you can tell us what you're actually doing there. But I wanted to kind of center the youth first. Like, why? What are the needs that you see?
Opportunities, experiences, and exposure, and education. A lot of our kids' mental health issues are generational. It's like they inherit the trauma of their parents or those who are raising them. And our kids do not understand in its totality coping mechanisms. So while you have a high level of vaping and high level of weed pens here in Louisville, I think our kids are really struggling with understanding their value and their purpose. So we've been intentional about giving them classes to speak directly to that. One of the other thing is our city is kind of like systemically divided based on zip codes and where kids live. So they've been conditioned to understand if you come from a certain part of town, then you are limited to these opportunities and experiences. Or if you are raised by a single mom, here's limited opportunities and experiences. So we're combating all those narratives. Maryhurst has a partner with us, and Joe has came in and did some of the trauma-informed care, giving our kids resources. We are big on trainer, so equipping our kids to go back to their respective areas and teach some of the things they've learned and give them the tools they not only to be successful, but to sustain their success.
Great. Thanks. And so let's turn it for a second to Micah. What does it look like for Maryhurst to work with the out of school time programs, and what services you provide? And I think you have some slides, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have some slides.
Rebecca, will you want to bring those up?
And I really wanted to spend a minute to sort of talk a little bit about how we got here, because something that's really exciting is that we're just starting to kick off our partnership with Sowing Seeds of Faith amongst 3 other out of school time providers as the next iteration of what we do. So Maryhurst, we are the oldest continuously serving child serving nonprofit in the state of Kentucky. We're 181 years old. So we've been around for a long time, and a vast majority of that history was really focused on intervention type of work, working with kids who had been placed in foster care and working through foster placement as well as residential treatment. And so Maryhurst has been in that space, and certainly there's an enormous behavioral health, mental health, and trauma component to that. Basically, we continue to do that work, but you can go to the next slide, sorry. About 10 years ago, Maryhurst, we created a commitment through a new strategic plan that we wanted to be disruptors, and in terms of the children that were being placed into foster care, and we wanted to find ways to chip away at those systemic issues that perpetuate kids being placed out of their homes, in particular kids, Black and brown kids in our community. And we had the ability in 2015, because of new state regulations, to access a new funding stream through Medicaid to develop a community-based behavioral health program. And that's where Maryhurst Renewal was born. And the basic premise of Maryhurst Renewal is that we wanted to provide wraparound services in a full range of services to young people throughout our community to disrupt cycles of abuse and trauma. And so you can look at this slide there. We have 5 core services within that. And really the first iteration of Maryhurst Renewal was very traditional. So it was based on a referral model. We would create MOUs with entities like our public school system, other providers, managed care organizations, so Medicaid insurers, and others, and that we would connect with them, build relationships like that. But it was built on this sort of arm's length referral process. And that was successful for us in terms of building the program. We got to a point where we were doubling the number of young people and family members we were serving every year. There was a need for high-end, highly intensive behavioral health services that included psychiatric care, applied behavioral analysis, case management for families, et cetera. And so we knew that there was a real need for that. But and I'll talk a little bit more about this. We knew that something wasn't right. So as we continued to scale the program up, frankly speaking, our financial losses continue to accrue because the models of sustaining these programs in Kentucky is a major challenge. And Medicaid wasn't covering the costs of highly intensive services. And so we started to think about, well, we know that there's a huge demand for these kind of programs, but we have to think creatively about how we continue to provide supports. On top of that, because it was a referral-based system, we were getting referrals from all over the place. Maryhurst, our core competency is serving young people who have complex traumas. We were definitely serving that population, but how did we really know that that was the population that was being targeted based on the referrals that we're getting through? And we wanted to continue diving in and making sure that systematically we were serving those populations and young people and families where they weren't able to access services in other forms because there wasn't as intensive of a program. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And so we basically, coming out of COVID, I think some reports have already been shared in the chat around this, is that we saw a huge influx of demand, both on the referral basis, so just those organizations and entities and people referring people to us, but also on the end of just community partners coming to us and saying that we need help. We're seeing significant behavioral issues in our programs that we're administering, and we don't know how to deal with this, and we know we need something different than just a referral program. Also, on top of this, waiting lists became a bigger issue. We always prided ourselves on having a really short waiting list, maximum 7 days, getting kids admitted and to see a therapist, which is pretty impressive in this. But those waiting lists kept ticking up to 2 weeks and up to almost 3 weeks. And we knew that what made our program special in dealing with working and supporting families in crisis, that was being minimalized because of the increased wait times where we weren't able to respond to needs as they arrived. The other thing is limited human resource pipeline. If you've tried to hire therapists in your community, it's really tough, especially with our financial models as nonprofits. If we're billing Medicaid or even commercial insurance, there's not enough therapists to meet the demand. In particular, there's not enough therapists who are representative of marginalized communities to meet demand in terms of matching people with specific lived experience. And so we knew that we were going to really struggle to do that. On top of that, we had systemic funding challenges. Our model of billing Medicaid wasn't working, and we needed to figure out a way to not have the rug pulled out from underneath us with financial hardship, and find a way to diversify our revenue and find new ways of serving the community. But all of that sort of spelled big trouble, in particular in a market like Louisville, which unfortunately systematically we're still dealing with, and we're still trying to work at matching the high need of behavioral health programming to match the demand. Okay, next slide. And so we had an opportunity a couple of years ago because we were out. Part of my role is that capacity to go out and find community partnerships. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a social worker. I am privileged to work on behalf of those folks. But my role is really to go out in the community and be a problem solver. And so we've worked with Goodwill Industries of Kentucky for a long time. And in 2021, we had an opportunity to collaborate with them where they had the funding to supplement our Medicaid rates to bring in higher intensive embedded services into what is called the SPOT, which is a Young Adult Opportunity Center that provides career readiness and career supports to young people who experienced homelessness, as well as young people who are reentering their community from being incarcerated. And so we were able to, at that point, start to figure out, okay, we've got some margin, we've got a little bit of funding to work with on top of our Medicaid billing. How can we structure something? And so what we decided to do, that we committed to providing consistent on-site support. So embedding a Maryhurst trauma-informed member of our clinical team within the SPOT, that they work in the SPOT 5 days a week. We had the ability to understand the population that they're working with, and so we could really find the right person within our staffing and to be able to embed them and meet them where they need. And then we're able to integrate training and mediation on top of that. And basically, that allowed us to start testing out, okay, what can this look like that we're taking the arm's length away from this? We're building the embedded model, we're building trust. And it really allowed us to, from the data that we've had, we were able to get people into therapy and into other services much quicker and much more effectively, and they would stick within that more longer term. Okay, next slide, and I'm almost done. And then Nicole already mentioned this. Based on that success, we were presented with an opportunity from the Louisville Metro government, the city of Louisville, to take advantage of ARPA funding to build out a much more robust community mental health project, where if you look at that map, we're embedding our professionals, therapy teams, as well as community support associates, which is a paraprofessional, trauma-informed trained paraprofessional, into access point organizations throughout our community, including YMCA after-school programs, community ministries, as well as neighborhood places, which are city-run access point sort of institutions where people, if they need energy assistance, food insecurity and stuff, they can access those places. And we kicked that off last June. And again, with the model that we're embedding people, integrating them into the culture of the organization, and then allowing them to support organizations as they need that support. Through the first 8 months of that program, we've been able to have over 3,500 different supports, unduplicated, serving unduplicated individuals through those. We have gotten over 120 people integrated into our case management services, and over 100 clients are actually using formal therapy. And we've also been able to train staff and volunteers of these organizations. And Demarion said it himself, train the trainer, to build their muscle when it comes to trauma-informed care and allow them to support their constituents more effectively. And what we've really learned through that is that the right partner is critical, and that having buy-in and making sure that the partner really is all in with allowing us to embed, giving us the data that we need to be able to do that work is really quite critical. But also finding the right person for the right partner and ensuring that we understand the population that our partners are trying to serve, and finding someone within Maryhurst who is representative of that population. So a culture fit is absolutely critical. We also know that each of those little dots on that map, our setup is completely different. And so we've had to go in and do listening sessions, engage with staff to truly understand what they need, how they need it, and when they need it. And we've been able to adapt the programming to fit those needs as we need it. Otherwise, we would, a cookie cutter solution just isn't going to do it. But training is critical, and really engaging with staff. So on trauma-informed care training, de-escalation training, and other core competencies that Maryhurst has been a critical element to these partnerships. And if we weren't doing that, I think we'd be at risk of, if the funding drops from underneath us, like going away with nothing. But as long as we know that we're training folks and that they're building up their toolkit in terms of providing better care, we know that there's going to be a great legacy. And then we know that, in the moment support is critical. And so we know informal support is going to be absolutely critical. And just being there, being present, building trust with staff is a core element to that. Okay, next slide, last slide. And then finally, we've had an opportunity through the CE&S Foundation to take this to the next stage. Maryhurst has always prided ourselves. We serve kids. We that's what we've done for 180 years. And this is going to be a really exciting program that allows us to dive a little bit deeper into what we feel is our core competencies in serving young people. And so the four partners are on the screen here: Sowing Seeds with Faith, Kentucky Refugee Ministries, Americana World Community Center, and Neighborhood House. And basically, this is a 2-year pilot. These are 4 organizations that have different iterations of out-of-school time programming. Again, it looks very different. We're learning as we continue to connect with these groups. It looks very different, and we're learning that about how they operate, when they operate, and what they need. These are 2 organizations that serve KRM and Americana, serve predominantly first-generation Americans, so people who've come to the U.S. Through a refugee or immigrant status, and 2 organizations that serve young people who represent communities that have historically been marginalized, Neighborhood House and Sowing Seeds with Faith. And so within this, we're going to be embedding 2 community support associates. We're going to be integrating some trauma-informed care training and other training into this, and then also incorporating language access. So we're really excited about this program. And I know my time is definitely up, but yeah, it's something that
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I loved how you actually called out around like the culture fit is really, really important. Every organization is different. Every organization has its own culture. So finding the right person to be successful in each organization and the care that you take with that. There's so much more that we could get into, but unfortunately we do have to keep our eye on the time, and I want to turn the mic over to Joe. So Bounce Coalition is doing a separate, but I think possibly aligned strategies in Louisville. So I want to hear, we have, maybe like, I'd say 5 minutes or so for you to talk about what you're doing and how that relates to the whole picture of Louisville that we're getting.
Okay, I can clean us up with time a little bit. So at Bounce, the Bounce Coalition, and within the state of Kentucky, we know that adverse childhood experiences are very common. I would say, in fact, 1 in 5 of our youth are experiencing at least 2 adverse childhood experiences right now. So because of that, we do the things that we do, which is we do offer education and training. We offer evaluation services, as well as we advocate for policies and procedures that benefit people who've experienced extreme trauma. But we have had the opportunity to work with Sowing Seeds with Faith, with some of the same organizations, KRM, with Neighborhood House, Lighthouse Academy. There are several organizations that we've had the opportunity to work with. And I agree with Micah. You can't use a cookie cutter, strategy when you come and you meet people. Like Damarian was saying, when we work with the youth in Teen Talk, the adults aren't allowed to speak, right? The youth have the floor. It is a youth-led space. And I think that is a beautiful thing. But one of the biggest things that we know at Bounce is that when people have experienced trauma, they show up in different ways, right? And you can't just take a program and bring it to people and say, hey, do this program and it'll make you better. You have to meet people where they are. And you have to understand what they're going through and why they're going through what they're going through and how to help them to build resiliency where they are. And that is one of the most important pieces for us, is meeting people where they are and then developing a strategy to move forward, not just creating something and saying, here, we have this and we want to use this, right? Because sometimes that works. And sometimes, people can meet you there, but that is not all the time, especially when you're dealing with people who have experienced extreme trauma. So we have had the opportunity to go into several sites. We have offered trainings to not only the staff, the volunteers, and the youth, but we've worked with board members as well to make certain that the entire agency is informed, right? Mm-hmm. Trauma informed, and that they know what is going on and how it is taking place. But I would love to give you all the stories of all the things. I would say one of the biggest impacts for me is working at a site, and the youth, every time I walked into the site, the youth asked for food. Did you bring any food today? Do you have any food, right? Yeah, of course they get fed at school, right? But I don't know if you all have seen those school lunches, right? Or if you've had a school lunch in the past, I don't know, 10 years, anything, they're not great, right? And if they're not receiving breakfast and they're not receiving lunch, they're hungry, right? And I know that sometimes, funding, you can't really provide food as it relates to funding, and it's a really big ask, but it is a really big need. And so sometimes we have to meet people and fill those needs, food, sleep, movement, right? If we can feed them, we can meet them in a different space. But anyway, I'll just end it at saying, meeting people where they are and creating what they need, customizing for the people that we're serving, not creating a program and then providing it to all the people that we serve.
Yeah, right. I love that. And also how you called out working with boards. I think that's kind of a maybe an overlooked but super important constituency, especially around building support for the work and sustaining the work and financing the work. So that's a brilliant strategy there. I know we're going to run out of time, but I also wanted to just point out that I learned something from Joe the other day when I was kind of looking up you on LinkedIn, and then I found myself on YouTube, and you were teaching me about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to throw that out to people to just Google that, Google Joe, and give her. It's a 1-minute thing. It's literally a 1-minute thing. Do that today, people, and your own mental health will be positively impacted. Okay. Can we bring everybody back on for one? We've got 2 minutes left. And so I'm going to give you all a challenge, which is, let's say 30 seconds. Tell me the one insight that you really hope people walk away with from this program today. And let's start with Joe, since I was just talking with you.
All right, 30 seconds. I will say, do not remain stagnant, right? Don't subscribe to antiquated ideas and, options, to be innovative and to move forward with those innovations.
Beautiful modeling. Okay. Tiffany.
I think that being able to be hands-on, on the ground, being able to see some of those things is the best way to figure out what is needed, and letting the youth tell you what is needed.
Perfect. Amber.
Trust the organizations leading the work and lean into their leadership to get it done.
Great. Micah.
Yeah, I would mirror. Yeah, listen, learn, and respond, and know what you do well, and go deep in that space, I think.
Terrific. Nicole.
I would say the importance of partnerships and collaborations. I'm so proud of all of our partnerships that are on this call today. So thank you guys so much for sharing.
Great. Demarian, last word.
You never see a tree eat its own fruit. So everything that comes out of you is for the world to eat off of. I would just recommend that everybody Google Sowing Seeds with Faith, and we would love for you to be a part of the solution. We tell people if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. And I feel like Sowing Seeds with Faith encompasses every opportunity that everybody has a testimony that can change and impact lives. So if we work collectively and collaboratively, I'm almost sure no matter where you are in the world, you can definitely make a difference. And I think Sowing Seeds with Faith is one of the most instrumental pieces to this puzzle to making it all come together.
Great. And I absolutely loved your model of having a youth gathering and not allowing the adults to talk. We all need to do that. That is so genius.
It'll make you cringe sometimes too, Ms. Kathleen. So it has its
I
ups
can
and downs,
imagine.
letting the kids
But I absolutely love it. Well, thank you all for spending some of your Friday with us and for preparing for this. We just learned so much from you. So deep gratitude. And everybody else, have a terrific weekend. Join us next month. We're going to be talking about staff wellness in out of school time. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.